What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We are back on Out of the Park Baseball 22, and you can see that we have simulated here to about the start of spring training. Spring training started, I guess, just a few days ago, maybe a little bit more. Okay, maybe about a week ago. But I wanted to start here because, as I said in the last episode at the end, I was going to make some changes to the roster, and I did do just that. So before we get into that, we'll just look at some comments here real quick, and then we'll get into what I did with the lineup. So good moves. The lineup looks really good according to Jonathan. So thank you. I agree. Check your coaches. Outstanding hitting and pitching coaches, and a manager that has no fair or worse relationships with players makes a world difference. That is a key point right there. I'd only consider trading Zapata for a more established 25 to 27-year-old starter that's cost controlled, and I would agree. As you recall in the last episode, if you saw it or if you didn't, I did kind of explore maybe just the type of value that Zapata would have, and he has a lot of value, which isn't too surprising. He's a pretty highly regarded prospect. There are some interesting names that came up, and if we do need to make a trade, he's a guy, Daniel Rodriguez is a guy that we can maybe look to move if we really need that one big piece to make a push. CJ says it's been a roller coaster ride for this whole series, but I think we are finally on the right track, and I agree, especially with some of the moves that I've made. Noah says, I like the offseason moves. The team is just lacking a true ace. Hopefully Cameron Burford can be that guy in his rookie season. I agree. I think the team needs an ace and a shutdown guy in the back of the pen. Other than that, it's the best team of the series, which, it's not a lot of competition for that title so far, admittedly. But still, I agree. I think that there's definitely a lot of talent on this team. I agree that the lineup is very good. Hopefully, this is a playoff team next year. So those were some of the comments there that I wanted to get in. So team changes. We'll go through those first. I'm going to go through something that my owner did. The Hall of Fame voting happened since the last time that I recorded, so we'll get through that too. So let's start with the team changes. We'll start with the lineups first. And we did make a change in center field. You see that 90 Williams is still on the roster, but we decided to, I don't know if I'm going to keep him on the bench or if I'm just going to outright release him, or maybe try to see if he can go to AAA. But we do have a new center fielder, and it is Luis Barrera. I was looking around in free agency, seeing if there was a better option in center field, and surprisingly there was. There was this guy here that you can see, not a lot of power, but definitely much better overall with the bat than the 90 Williams was. His arm's not as good, but he still has the same range. So, I figure his expectation is to be in the starting lineup. You can see that he can be, he was a right fielder when we signed him, a corner outfielder. We're going to have him play in center field because I think he can handle it. It's the same deal with Williams. He's just going to end up being a stopgap until Derek Curiel is ready, but I think this guy will be a better option overall. You can see that he's been a positive value player in the major leagues with Oakland over his career, whereas you take a look at Williams, last year at us, he was a negative value player, just barely, but, he was basically a replacement level player, whereas Luis Barrera, I think, can provide a little more. So that is the main move that we made in the lineup, and I think this is the lineup that I'm going to go with. I could probably move Barrera above Romo, and in fact, I am probably going to do that, but let me just do that over here before I forget. So the lineup that we have right now that we're going to start the season with, if I need to make any changes, I can. But I think we're going to go Moncada, Green, Torkelson, Bishop, Epps, LeMahieu, Barrera, Romo, and Adames. And if I do make any adjustments, I can do that. But I think that this is a pretty solid lineup. It is probably the best lineup we've had so far in this save. So I'm excited to see if they can live up to expectations, of course. Playing half of our games in Colorado, the offense really shouldn't be an issue, but I do think that the amount of talent that we have, this should be easily one of the better offenses in the National League this year. Moving on to pitching, we made a lot of changes here. Well, maybe not a lot of changes, but we did bring in a couple of pieces. We did bring in one starter, and that is because we decided to move Kendall Williams in a trade. So we'll get to that in a second, but the starter that we did bring in was Orkelly Gomez from the Texas Rangers. You can see that his first season, ERA-wise, was not very good with Texas. The next season, still not very good. Last year, a 4.34 ERA, which was kind of in line with his career FIP. He was close to a 2-win pitcher last year, so a back-of-the-rotation starter was really what I was looking for, a guy with good movement and good control and a solid fastball, and that's what Gomez had. So you see we made this trade with Texas, and we just traded a bunch of prospects that I really didn't think I needed. The two that it really hurt to trade were Flanoy, which you can see that he I don't know. I just did not have super great feelings about this guy. Maybe he just needed a change of scenery, but we'll see if he ever does develop in anything. I thought maybe he could be a really good relief pitcher for us, maybe a high leverage reliever. We'll see if he ends up turning out to that, but I just did not know if he would ever turn into that kind of guy with us. So relief pitchers are very easy to acquire as it is, so I'm not too concerned about it. We did have to give up Jace Bohofrin, but Jace Borofen. There we go. Got that done. So once again, these outfielders, you can usually find them in the draft anyway. These 40, 45 grade outfielders that, okay with the bat, okay in the field. So I'm not too concerned. Those are the two that I really, hated to give up. But we did get Gomez, so I think that he should be a solid back of the rotation arm for us, even though he will be pitching in Colorado some of the time. He's not a guy that's going to strike out a lot of batters. He's not going to really walk a lot either. So if he can just give me like a 4.3, 4.4, 4.5 ERAs or, back of the rotation starter, I'm not going to be too upset. I'll be pretty happy with that. So Gomez is going to slot in. We still do have Denny Brady here too. I have him at number 5 right now, but, you can go back and forth. I do anticipate that Brady is going to, regress. He was a 3-win player last year, and that was a career year for him, a 3.95 ERA, 160 strikeouts to 40 walks and 180 innings. He's not going to do that again. So if we do need to make a trade for another starter, we have the pieces we can do that. But for right now, this is our rotation. Kershaw is getting a little worse, which is a little unfortunate. So our starting rotation, as it stands right now, is pretty weak. You can see that his stuff is now down to 40. His control is down to 60. And his velocity is once again down, which is not too surprising. He's 38 years old. He's going to turn 39 here in just a couple of weeks on March 19th. So it's not too surprising that he's really starting to fall apart. I'm hoping that he can give us just a little bit. You can see that we just gave him the 1-year deal in the last episode for $2 million. So if we need to release him, if he doesn't have it anymore, that's fine. I don't mind doing that. But I do hope that he can be somewhat of a solid veteran presence, a left-hander in our rotation. So right now we have Rocker, Burford, Kershaw, Gomez, and Brady in the rotation. That is not going to be what a rotation looks like at the end of the season. I can say that with 110% certainty. There's going to be changes to this rotation by the time October rolls around. So the bullpen, that's where we had some more kind of changes. So we did bring in a better closer than we would have had initially. He's not, he's not the best closer in baseball, right? But I think compared to what we had, his ratings would indicate that I think he could be a pretty solid option there, pitching high leverage innings for us at the back end of our bullpen. He's a 70 grade right now. Good stuff, good control, solid movement, 3 pitches, fastball, cutter, curveball. He's a good teammate. You can see that we got him from Arizona, and this was the deal that we traded Kendall Williams. So I felt more confident in Martinez holding down a higher leverage role than I did in Kendall Williams. So I traded Williams and then just a first base prospect, Jake Carrillo, for Alexander Martinez. And I'm very excited about what Martinez can do for a bullpen, 30 years old. You can see that he's been in the league for 4 years, so he has 2 years left to serve his time until he hits free agency. A 3.71 ERA last year, a 3.45 FIP, a 1-win player. So I do think that he can be a solid option at the back of our bullpen. We also made a trade recently for Darwinzon Hernandez to be a solid option. 80 grade stuff. Control is always going to be a question mark with him. He's going to walk his fair share of batters, but he's going to strike out a lot too. So I brought him in to be our new lefty setup guy. He's a neutral power pitcher last year with Boston, a 3.17 ERA. In fact, in this save for Boston, he was with the Yankees last year. He was with Boston initially, and then he went to Pittsburgh. Then he's with the Yankees, and now he's with us. So you can see that he's, for the most part, been pretty solid. He's had a couple off years, but his FIPS were always better in those years as it was. So I'm not overly concerned. I think that he should be able to provide some solid high leverage innings as our lefty setup guy. As our righty setup guy for right now, we have Austin McGeorge. We got him in a trade with Toronto for just relief pitching prospect Javier Assad that I don't think was going to turn into much of anything. 29 years old, so he's on the older side. And we do get Austin McGeorge. 32 years old. He will hit free agency at the end of this season, but you can see that last year with Toronto, a 3.18 ERA and an identical FIP in 51 innings pitched, 52 strikeouts to 14 walks, a 674 opponent OPS. So I think that he should be pretty solid. Good stuff, good control, solid movement. Slider's his best pitch, so we'll see if he can handle the high leverage innings for us. By getting Hernandez, we were able to put Vasquez in a middle relief role. We got Montero in the last episode. We got Roberson and Cruz in the last episode, and we also traded for Victor Gonzalez. We made this trade with Cleveland. We traded Augustin Ruiz, that guy that we got in the Dodgers deal, to get Victor Gonzalez just as another lefty in the bullpen, so he is now our third. You can see that with Cleveland last year, he actually started for them. He was a starting pitcher, which is a kind of, it's kind of nice to have. I mean, if Kershaw doesn't work out, we could theoretically put Gonzalez into the rotation as his lefty replacement and see what he can do, but it would be nice to kind of leave him in the bullpen just because, he is a pretty solid lefty. So regardless, now we have 3 lefties in the bullpen to mess around with, which is nice. Of course, we are, with these moves, we are well over, not accounting for guys like, Gilbreth, Zapata, guys that won't be on the actual team, Grant Levine. We are over the 26 active roster limit. I think when we made these moves, we were at 27. So one of these relief pitchers, either Cruz or Roberson, is not going to be on the team, on the active roster. I just have to decide which one will not be there. But that is that. So we'll go into the mail and news real quick. And so we'll go all the way down here to the Hall of Fame voting results. And you can see Albert Pujols in his first year on the ballot. Not a unanimous induction, which I think is a little surprising, but he gets in with 98.4% of the vote. In terms of guys that were dropped, you can see Omar Vizquel in his 10th year, he never made it in. He finishes with 15.3% of the vote. Brian McCann, Jonathan Papelbon, Gio Gonzalez, Dustin Pedroia, Russell Martin, Matt Kemp, Jake Arrieta, Ryan Zimmerman, Matt Carpenter, Jeff Samardzija, Darren O'Day, Tyler Clippard, Justin Turner, and Sean Doolittle all drop off of the ballot. In terms of other big names, Robinson Cano, it looks like he's going to make it in 2 years. He got 66.4% this year, so I'm sure he'll make it in eventually. Beltran at 59.9%. I don't know if he'll quite make it in. Suzuki, I think, actually dropped. I want to say he was like around 60% maybe last year, and now he's only at 52.4%, so I don't know if Ichiro is going to make it, which is it's quite surprising. I know somebody commented about that a few episodes ago, that they're surprised Ichiro didn't get in first ballot, and I am surprised too. Joe Mauer at 51.8%, and Yachty at 49.8%. Victor Martinez at 30%. King Felix 24.8% his first year, so I don't think any of these guys are going to make it. Robinson Cano will, but other than that, maybe Beltran. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So one other thing I want to talk about, the financial update from our owner, and we're still not seeing eye to eye, which is unfortunate. He dropped our team's budget from $182 million to $180 million, and he dropped our player development budget again. So you remember we had it maxed out at $36 million a season ago. He cut it when he became the owner to $21.9 million. He's cut it once again to $17.5 million, which is not where I would like it to be. So me and this owner are having a lot of issues right now. It's not been a great start to our working relationship. And I gotta say, if I get fired, would not be upset, because the owner is really pissing me off with his meddling involvement trait. That is, you don't want that out of an owner. So the fact, I would like the development budget to be maxed out for a reason, and now I can't even max it out. So whatever, we just have to make it work. But yeah, I am excited about this team, and so I'm going to simulate up ahead to the end of spring training, which would appear to be March. Our last game seems to be March 28th, and then the season starts on April 1st. On April Fool's Day, we will start with the 7-game road trip in San Francisco and Seattle. So I will simulate to the end of spring training. Hopefully we don't have any injuries. We can check the preseason predictions, and we will see how the team's looking. All right, we are here at opening day, Thursday, April 1st, 2027, the start of a brand new season. Season expectation from our owner. He thinks that we should play 500 ball, and I do agree. Player development update. We'll take a look at this real quick. So I think the biggest thing right here, Jenderson Zapata, his control has gone up from 35 to 40. We just need to go up a little more, and then I'm sure we can bring him up to the big leagues. I mean, Zapata could certainly be a part of our rotation overhaul at some point this season for sure. Gomez has gotten worse. His stuff rating has dropped. His movement has dropped. His stamina has dropped. So that's not what I want to see out of the guy that I traded for, especially at only 26 years old. Martinez's stuff has dropped just a little bit, but that I'm not super concerned about. And that is all I need to worry about there. The top 100 prospects, Skylar Townsend, the left-hander from the Baltimore Orioles. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be pretty solid, although he's still a 25 grade, which I don't fully understand. His scouting accuracy was low, but Mike Gronfeld, Edgar Miranda, Bobby Gonzalez, Jenderson Zapata, the number 5 prospect in baseball. And we also have Josh Devlin. You'll remember that this was our first-round pick in 2026 that we picked number 2 overall. Another guy, if we can just get his control up to a good spot, I'm going to feel a heck of a lot better. But he is the number 6 prospect. So we have the number 5 and the number 6 prospect in baseball. I'd actually be interested to see if I go to the prospect pipeline and go to the Rockies. So we have Zapata, Devlin, Danny Rodriguez is number 16, Curiel's number 27, Matos is 76, Chad Kirstein, who I'm sure will be up in the big leagues at some point this year, is 91. So we have 6 prospects in the top 100 in Major League Baseball, which is good. I'm very happy to see that. I'm happy with some of the players that we've been able to get here over the past several years. Good thing, too, is that they're young. Outside of Kirstein's 25, but Zapata's 22, Devlin's 23, Rodriguez is 21, Curiel's 21, Matos is 17. This was a guy that we got in international free agency last year. So then we have Kirstein, who's 25. So we have a lot of young guys here, which is good. You see 380 rate potential arms in Zapata, Devlin, and Rodriguez, which is nice. We do have Zapata there at AAA. We have Devlin at AA. We have Rodriguez at AA. We have Curiel at AAA. So we have everybody where they need to be. So with that said, let's take a look at the preseason predictions. You can see injury-wise, Gilbreth, he was already injured when I started recording this episode. He wasn't going to be part of our Major League squad as it was. The biggest thing that we had to deal with is Adames has a day-to-day injury. Strained oblique for a couple of weeks. I'm not super concerned about it. So let's take a look at the preseason predictions. There they are. And we'll scroll down, and we are projected to go 83 and 79, which would not be bad at all, certainly. And certainly we could probably do a little better than that if we can improve the starting rotation a little bit as the season goes on. We're actually projected to have a positive run differential. We're supposed to score 861 runs, allow 813, which is nice to see. Only 6 games back in an NL West that's not supposed to be super great. The Giants at 89-73 are projected to win the division. The Padres 87-75. The Dodgers at 78-84. The Diamondbacks at 72-90. So this division does not look like it's going to be very good. The NL Central doesn't look like it's going to be very good. The Braves and the Mets look solid. Take a look at the American League. I mean, a lot of these divisions yikes. It seems like the Tigers are one of the best. It seems like it's the Tigers, the Braves, and the Mets at this point. Everybody else, I don't know. So we are supposed to have 1, 2, 3 of the top 10 hitters in the National League in Green, Torkelson, and Moncada, our top 3 hitters in the lineup. In terms of pitchers, nobody on that list, not too surprising. There's our old friend Aaron Brooks, who has made the list. Good for him. So let's take a look at the division real quick. The Giants are supposed to go 89 and 73. So we'll take a look at their lineup. Sal Frelick, this was a guy they got in a trade several years back with Cleveland, so he's going to be leading off for them. They still have Luciano. Joey Bart's still kicking around, which is nice to see. Obviously, he has the power component to the game. Seems like he's been a solid catcher for them, which is nice. Jack Flaherty is their ace. They got him as a free agent signing last offseason, very close to spring training. Extreme fly ball pitcher, but it worked for him last year. A 3.71 ERA, a 3.69 FIP. He was a 4-win pitcher. So this team, it does look pretty solid. They could definitely flirt with 90 wins in a division title, certainly. The Padres, we'll take a look at how much different they are. And from last year to this year, not much has changed. And of course, still have Tatis, still have Grisham, still have Kim. Mackenzie Gore is, of course, one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. 3.26 ERA, a 3.07 FIP. He was a 5.5-win pitcher last year. They have Mitch Keller, who they got from the free agency, and he's going to be their number 2 starter, which is very interesting. Last year, he had a 5.34 ERA, a 4.93 FIP for Pittsburgh, and he's going to be the Padres' number 2. Jacob Nix, Reggie Lawson, and Ryan Weathers. So they still have a lot of the guys that they would have had when we started this save, which is interesting. So this is the Padres. Know about Colorado. Look at the Dodgers. They have certainly fallen off. They have fallen on hard times. Miguel Vargas, a first baseman, is leading off for them. That's an interesting leadoff hitter. I know their scouting accuracy is low, but I don't think it would, really affect it that much. Luis Garcia, of course, the guy that we had there in 2025, we traded him to the Dodgers. And last year with the Dodgers, 730 OPS. He was a 1.9 win player, so solid season. Could have been better. Cody Bellinger, still there. Giancarlo Stanton, they're still dealing with that. 37 years old, and this is the last year that he has to be in Los Angeles. I cannot imagine they're going to pick up that team option, so I'm sure that he is going to hit free agency at the end of the season. Gavin Lux is still there. DJ Peters, Corey Seager, Will Smith. Mookie Betts now batting ninth as the designated hitter. Just a 40-grade hitter at that point, 34 years of age. And yeah, so he is, he did good in 2024 and 2025. Last year, he really fell off a cliff. So we'll see if that was just a bad year, if it was a sign of things to come. We'll take a look at his contract, and yeah, that would not be good if he cannot turn it around. 3 more years left at $30 million. This year he's making $25 million. So the Dodgers have fallen off. Jeremy Rosario, they do have a very good starting pitcher, it looks like. Fragile, though, not much movement. They still do have May. They got Julio, Josiah, Bobby Miller. Looks like a solid bullpen. They do bring back Kenley Jansen in free agency. They re-signed him in early January. So he is still with the Dodgers. And we'll take a look at the Diamondbacks. They have been in rebuild mode for a while. And, yeah, this is a very left-handed heavy lineup. Does not see... they got some names. Corbin Carroll is obviously very interesting. He's fragile, but, really good defensively. Really good with the bat. Not a ton of home run power, but... Seth Beer, Ratty Telez, Ford Proctor. Yeah, this is Spencer Howard, Cal Quantrill at the top of the rotation. Kendall Williams is slotted in as their closer. We'll see how he does there. Ian Bedell, who we'll take a look there at his pitching stats. I had him in another save. So yeah, it does not seem like he's really developed super well in this save, but. It is what it is. So let's get on here. We'll get on with the start of the season. As I said, we have games against the Giants, the Mariners, then we come home for 6 games. Have the Dodgers and Angels, Dodgers again, Cubs and Reds to end out the month. So I'll simulate a little bit ahead. I'll stop at some point and we can see how the team's doing. Hopefully we're playing well. All right, I've simulated up to May 31st. I figured it'd just be a good start because we have a 3-game set with the Cardinals coming up on May 31st and the first 2 days of June. Your Rockies 36-17. And if we go to the standings, your Rockies, the best team in baseball right now through the first 2 months of the season. Now, I know that's not going to continue, but I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. You better believe it. And it's a little surprising because, our starting pitchers had a lot of issues early on in the season. Burford especially, he had a high ERA. Kershaw had a high ERA. He still kind of does, but he'll alternate good and bad starts, which isn't too surprising. He's actually getting a lot worse. His stuff rating is now 30, which we're definitely. He's making it work right now. 14 hits in 7 innings obviously isn't very good, but he'll have other good starts. This start against San Diego, they're not too bad either. I think they're 34-20, 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs. He only allowed 1 home run, no strikeouts, which is odd for him. But if he could, as long as he's going to keep making it work, I'm fine with him being in the rotation. But as soon as he starts putting together multiple bad starts, I think we're going to look to replace him. I'd be shocked if he lasts the entire season. He's just, he has 1 foot off the cliff, and the other foot's not far behind at this point. Gomez, of course, that was the guy that we got. He was doing well. He's had a couple rough starts here recently, but still, as I said, if he could have an ERA around 4.3, 4.5, that'd be great. He's at 4.9 right now, and that's, he was doing a lot better before he got shelled by Texas in 3 1/3. And Denny Brady, I said he was going to regress. He hasn't really regressed. An ERA of 4, a 4.34 FIPS. It's basically, his line is pretty similar to what he had last year, and in fact, guys are actually hitting less off of him than he did the year before. Last year, 775 OPS against. This year, it's only 717. So he's walking a few more guys, but other than that, he's doing pretty well, which is I'm very surprised about. Martinez has been the shutdown guy in the bullpen that we needed. A 1.63 ERA, a 2.73 FIP. He already has a 1.0 WAR, which is what he had all of last year. So he has been a shutdown guy for us that we desperately needed. Austin McGeorge he struggled a little bit, especially recently, so we might need to get another bigger arm in there. Darwinzon Hernandez, he's not, surprisingly for Hernandez, he's not walking a lot of guys. They're just making a lot of contact off him. A 909 OPS against, it's not in line with what has happened to him over his career, so hopefully that kind of trends the other way. Victor Gonzalez has been money. He has 0.94 ERA, a 1.95 FIP, excuse me. So, I mean, maybe we explore putting him in the starting rotation at some point. I don't know. Jesus Cruz has been better than I thought he would be, a 3.55 ERA. Montero has been a good addition, a 3.86 ERA. Vasquez in a middle relief role has been spectacular, a 0.71 earned run average. He didn't allow a run until the middle of May, which is pretty neat. And then Brett Conine, once again, very good in that long relief role. We tried him as a start. He wasn't super great, but in a long relief role, he's been very, very good, which is nice. And the big story, of course, as I expected it to be, our offense has been absolutely sensational. First in runs scored, first in batting average, first in OBP, first in OPS, first in batting order, first in WOBA, sixth in home runs, third in base running. Not a lot of stolen bases, but that's all right. I mean, the pitching staff as a whole, it hasn't been awful. We're tied for sixth in runs against in the National League, which, I mean, you look at some of the scores: 9-11, 7-6, 8-6, 10-4, 7-6. Like, we've had a lot of games like that, but still, we're not allowing a ton of runs as it is. You can see in April we got off to a fast start, 19-8. May we've been 17-9. I mean, we'll sim this game against St. Louis just to get a total. 18-9 in May. There's the player development update, so we'll check that a little later. But yeah, this team now 37-17 officially through the first 2 months of the campaign, which is great. We'll take a look here at our lineup in OPS. Jim Epps, once again, I didn't know if he was going to be able to keep up what he did last year. His ratings wouldn't indicate that he would be able to, but you can see that he's doing it again. A 985 OPS last year, a 984 OPS this year. He's already been worth 2 wins, which is nice. Spencer Torkelson, once again, another fantastic season. 16 home runs, 51 runs batted in through 2 months. He has a 145 WRC plus. He's been worth 2.5 wins. 946 OPS, so he has been very good. Hunter Bishop, a 937 OPS. This has been his best year so far of his career. He is really seeing the ball well. 15 home runs, 42 runs batted in, so I'm sure he's going to topple these home run RBI numbers as long as he stays healthy. Riley Green, a good season in his own right. He had a 929 OPS last season with us in the half season, and this year so far, a 908 OPS through he's had 52 appearances. He started 49 games, 8 home runs, 17 runs batted in. He's been worth 2.5 wins. Going further down the list, DJ LeMahieu has been a great addition as our starting first baseman this year. Definitely, a pretty solid addition for sure, bringing him back to Colorado after his years with the Yankees. An 894 OPS, a 141 WRC plus. He's been close to a 2-win player. Yoan Moncada, an 875 OPS, which is one of his better years in recent memory. 287, 368, 507 slash line. He's been worth close to 2 wins. Looking at Drew Romo, an 801 OPS. This kid has really developed well compared to what he was early on in this save. He has now become a good offensive threat at the plate, which is great to see. A 111 WRC plus, which is awesome. Luis Barrera, we got this guy to do a little bit better than Nani Williams, and hey, He has a 690 OPS. He's been a 0.5 win player, which is better than what Nani Williams was. So we'll take a look here. Willy Adames, he has been a positive value player. Offensively, he hasn't done much, but still, he's the last hitter in our lineup, so I'm okay with that. The bench has not done super well. Pagan has done well in limited time, but the rest of the bench has not done super great with the bat. But for the most part, I can't be too upset. This is the best team we have had so far in this save. We got to look at the standings again. We are the best team in baseball, 37-17. Seems like we finally found a formula that has worked, and we have pieces that we can use to upgrade things if we need to. And we're definitely going to try to get one starting pitcher at the deadline. In fact, if we take a look here at the trading block, we'll see who's available. All players. So the best starting pitcher that's available right now would appear to be we could make another trade with the Tigers. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't like his personality. I don't want to mess up a good thing. But I mean, that's one option. I'm sure there's going to be other names that pop up here as the weeks go along. So we could definitely add a really solid starting pitcher if we need to really boost this team. But for right now, your Rockies looking pretty good. So I'm excited to see what we can do over the final 4 months of the season: June, July, August, September, and just of course a little bit into October. But this is our best chance certainly to make the playoffs yet. Barring a complete collapse, we should make it. I'd be very surprised if we didn't. I mean, we're 7 games up on the Nationals. The Nationals have a second wild card spot, so we are looking pretty good. Maybe not to win the division because the Padres are also looking very good. But I'd like to think that we'll be in a good position to make the playoffs this year for the first time in this save. So I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too. Next episode, we will continue on with the season. We'll do the draft. We'll get maybe a trade or two at the deadline, and we'll see if this team can make a push to the playoffs. So thank you guys for watching this episode. I'll catch you guys again next time.